They thought Earth was heavy, old, unpredictable, and emotionally not stable. The Galactic Council said those words when they banned humans from the interior pact of the world. People didn't care about the blue planet that was hovering on the edge of Sector 9. They had drained it of its worth. The minerals are gone, the air is polluted, and the people are barely hanging on, living in cities that are falling apart. They thought the world was over, but Earth had been observing ant construction. No one took the alarms on Station Veronate seriously when they went off. Not seriously. Some government workers looked at the reports. Radiation levels rise close to Mars. They found strange things about Saturn's edge, but they didn't believe them. They laughed at human tech. Couldn't get off the ground without begging aliens for spare parts. They were not right. Something stirred in the eerie silence of the Martian belt. The ship wasn't as sleek or beautiful as council ships. It was sharp, rough, and violent, made from pieces of old satellites that fell to Earth, empty space stations, and alien technology that was taken. It looked like a coffin for gods, wrapped up in scars and resistance. And a Titan came out of it. He wasn't a general. He wasn't a member of the government. He didn't have a badge or a rank. The stars would just call it a name. Learn to be afraid. Ward. Ward had been raised to fight. Not in a lab. Not in a tank made with bioengineering. The fall of Earth made him grew up in the ruins of cities that were formerly powerful in the world. He lived without a roof over his head and made it through still on food and fist battles. The only thing he learned was from watching invasion videos and studying every weaknesses of aliens that humans could write down. He battled when they came. For Earth. He got ready when they left Earth to die. He was now 30 feet tall with an AA mechanized exoframe made from all the junk that Earth could find. Titanus armor that is fueled by a broken extraterrestrial core and a human's desire to kill a three-eyed diplomat from the Corellian species who was in charge of Station Veronate watched the signal come in. At first, he laughed. The laughter stopped when the station shook. Sensors went off with warnings. Something had gone into orbit. Something furious, loud, and ancient. When Ward got there, he didn't say anything. He didn't want peace. He just stomped forward, each step on steel. His armor hissed as it locked into place for an attack. Plasma rounds bounced off like rain on concrete on his shoulder. The guards sought to keep him in check. They didn't succeed. He ripped through them like they were made of cardboard. His right arm, which had been changed to include a kinetic pulse cannon, easily broke through force fields. He's annexed a blade that could cut through Corellian holes and mechs on the left like they were playthings. There were screams in every hallway. Council Command tried to give orders to ask for help from the homeworlds. Unfortunately, it was too late. The Titan from Earth had made his first step, and he wasn't going to quit. Ward didn't feel anything when plasma touched his side. Inside the cockpit of he was in the Titan's suit, surrounded by flashing red lights and hissing hydraulics, way past the point of fear or doubt. Pain was something I knew, like hunger, like betrayal. He didn't stop. It made him remember that he was alive. And Merit was crucial because it reminded him who he was doing this for. He wasn't here for peace. He didn't come to talk. They thought Earth was done, so he came here. As Ward's X-Blade tore through, he heard them shouting through another wall. In the hallway, not in whatever language he knew, but terror sounded the same in all animals. He kicked the door down. That kept him away from the station's command center. His boot made a dent that was deep enough to make a sound, and he grunted. He bent the thick metal inward like it was wet paper with a lot of work. The guards on the opposite side was already shaking. 3 Corellians with ion weapons on Nikari with scales and icy blood, taller than him, even sans the Titan's suit. They lined up as if they had practiced for this. Ward left before they did. He started with the propulsion jets in his back. The Titan's armor screeched as it tore over the floor. The X-Blade reached the Nikari's neck first, cutting through bone and scale. The ion blasts came next, with blue streams of fire flying past his helmet, one hitting his shoulder joint, hissing against the composite armor. Ward turned around and caught the close Corellian with his fist, an industrial piston punch that smashed the creature's moist crack in the skull. Ward dodged low, but the other 2 shot blindly, sliding over the burned floor and hitting each of them with a leg covered in scrap steel and revenge. He didn't want to see if they are still alive. He didn't care. He hissed, "Command core secure." Here's the helmet's ancient, broken comlink made the voice sound strange. "Stop the uplinks." A voice buzzed through his earpiece back on Earth, somewhere under the ruins of old Berlin. Rocha that cut off the Titan 1 satellite feed. No one heard the distress call. "You're ready for phase 2. Ward smiled. The real work had just begun. He wasn't just coming to kill people, he came to show them. For decades, people made fun of Earth and turned into a mining town. The skies were bare and the oceans were poisoned. When the Galactic Council dubbed them volatile. When they protested, they didn't listen when Earth begged. And when they fought back, they were called terrorists, uncivilized, and deadly. Ward was here to show them. Were correct. He turned on the Titan suit's data jack and shoved it into the command panel. There were sparks, and as Earth's sickness spread, station systems started to fail. Every safe channel, every secret file and private message. The floodgate of data broke open. Get it done. The voice in his ear said yes. You just told everyone all of their secrets. It's time to burn the remainder. Ward didn't need to be asked twice. He put 2 seismic charges against the fusion core of the command module and stepped back to look at the lights that were ticking. That explosives were rough, salvaged tech that had been reconfigured by people. No fail-if, no second chance. Simply explode. He left before they went off. The corridor behind him lit up like a baby boy, flames chasing after him as he went deeper into the center of Station Varan 8. The explosion made the orbital ring shake, tearing through the Council's power infrastructure, data banks and weapons vaults. Screaming sirens, the emergency doors slammed, shut fire suppression systems fortresslessly against the mess, and he kept walking. Ward has one more stop, the block for detention. That's where they put them, the final people to be taken from border incursions, laborers who fought back, immigrants who asked for asylum but were instead put in cages with aliens. Officially, they didn't exist. The Council took them off the books. Ward knew better. Head to the block after 15 more minutes of fighting, not most of it his. He used an EMP bomb to deactivate the auto turrets at the cell doors, and Madethi hydraulic crank opened the panel. As it rose, the gate creaked, and there they were, 24 people, frail and hungry. Some were scarcely awake. A few others glanced at him with wide eyes, not sure if he was a hero or simply another bad dream. Most people didn't know who he was. He didn't think they would. They didn't know who he was, name, but not what he stood for. Earth's payment, he said. Just move, you're headed back home. They followed one by one. Ward gathered him weapons that had been taken from dead guards and were still heated from battle. Hadn't have enough time or suits, but he had fire. He was very angry. That would be enough. The plan to get away wasn't hard. Blow up the docking bay, steal a ship, and ride the fire trail back to Earth. They got halfway there before things became crazy. Finally, the Council had answered. Not with backup, not with a war cruiser and discussions. It was big and scary outside. The station's glass. A huge shadow covered over Mars. For one long second, Ward glanced at it. That wasn't just any old spacecraft. That was a flagship of the Devourer class, and it was one of only 3 in the whole fleet of the Council. It wasn't there to stop him. It was here to destroy the proof by turning the station and everything inside it into dust. One of the people who were saved exclaimed, "They're going to nuke us," his voice increasing in dread. "These people are going to wipe out this whole place out." Ward didn't move. He looked at the other people. "Go to Dock Bay 3. Take the transport for Seraph class. I'll give you the time." No. We are a couple. You believe that the ship is going to wait. You run. You are alive. That's your only chance. He looked at the youngest child, a girl who was about 15. Her eyes are too hollow for her age. You tell Earth what occurred. You informed them that the Titan walked. He went the other way and turned toward the main reactor. At the station, he was aware of what he was doing. The Titan's suit had a coils for too much fusion. It was designed to be a final option, a powerful blast of energy, enough to kill anything within 3 meters. Planned for suicide. They showed him how toasted things off the day he put on the armor. He had always thought he would die alone like this, bleeding and buying time. When he got to the reactor room, the Devourer-class cruiser started shooting. The whole station shook. Fires broke out across the walls, but he was already moving, slamming his hand into the override button and ignoring the heat that was scorching his armor from the outside. He turned on the overload. Countdown for 180 seconds. His peaceful link bused. "Do you copy? Ward, Titan 1. Taking out the shuttle is in the air. We have the people. Get out of there right now." He didn't say anything. He stood still while the countdown to overload flashed 160 seconds. He shut his eyes. He remembered what his brother looked like when Council guards shot him during the last insurrection. On the streets of New Chicago, he remembered how his mother died from coughing, in a refugee tent that was full of smog. He knew what it was like to be human, to fight when you had nothing left, to give your life so that others could win. 130 seconds. The fires got closer. The reactor grumbled. Ward stood tall while the Devourer's rifles kept shooting. That Titan from Earth, the one they made fun of, the one they took away, the person who would make sure they didn't forget. There was no blast, not the kind the Council thought they would get. The cruiser from the Devourer class had locked onto Station Varan 8 and discharged all of its weapons. Ion lances, fusion torpedoes, and particle beams. They wanted the station to go away, not hurt, not deactivated, gone. No proof, no survivors, no questions asked. But then everything immediately came to a halt. The shooting stopped. Lights on the flagship blinked and died one by one, as if the ship had strangled on its own power. The whole ship froze in space, like a dead body, floating in space, quiet and peaceful. And from the brink of that, something drifted through the radioactive, falling apart space station. Not a body, not a shape, not wreckage, huge, dark, shining a faint red. It proceeded slowly, with smoke trailing behind its arms and armor. It melted, in some spots. Yet it was still complete, and still walking. Ward was still alive. The overload didn't start the way it was supposed to. Instead, it merged with the alien core. Inside the Titan suit, making something that the engineers on Earth had never thought of. Yes, a new burst of energy, but not outward, inside. The suit took it in, moved, changed. It was more than simply armor. It was living. The suit systems were suddenly whispering things to him. Pieces of a foreign tongue, warning sounds and voices that people shouldn't hear. It beat against his body, like another heart. The anguish should have killed him at least 10 times. The heat alone may have killed him in his own blood. But Ward was no longer merely a person. He was more than that. Something made from the anger of the Earth and technology from aliens that was put together with hate. There were warning signals in 10 different languages inside his helmet. His bones hurt with every step, yet he kept going, moving through the broken hull of the station into open space. The Titan had made it through, and the whole cosmos would know it. The transmission struck the underground network 27 minutes after it left. Earth. Boom. A video with low resolution that is unsteady and dark, but clear. Ward was shown trudging across the ruins of a fire. Limping but upright, Varanate left a trail of fire and bodies that looked like rubbish. The council of the walls behind him were covered in charred emblems, and there was a message written in plasma on the steel. We recall how quickly the video went viral, first to the rebels hidden in the deep Earth shelters, then to the colony drifting in council-occupied space. Then, through encrypted means, the illicit market goods made their way into the smuggling ships. The inmates working in the ice mines on Titan and the weaponry merchants on the black market. They noticed the Ward. They saw the Titan, and hope, real hope, lit up like a spark on leaves that are dry. For a long time, aliens made fun of humans in their political jokes. Now they were dangerous. The council didn't say anything or do anything in response. Refusals. They went all in. There was an emergency meeting. War measures were passed. Earth was no longer a small colony. It was now a rogue danger. Types of species. If a human ship were to cross the solar barrier, it would be fired on sight. Any people who helped rebels would be killed. They wanted to be scared but ferocious, a strange thing. It listens to orders sometimes and fights back other times. The rebel ship Dustwalker picked up a weak beacon near Saturn's rings 2 days later. It wasn't normal how often the council meets. It was old, simple, and human. The crew, who were half crazy from being exposed to radiation and low on fuel, argued not paying attention to it. But someone was able to read the signal pattern. It was the old Earth. Call for help. 47. Titan is still alive. Say it again. Titan is still alive. Going toward Earth. Garrick, the captain, who had dropped out of the military, glanced at the comm screen. For a long time, his hands shook a little bit. He had battled in Chicago Rebellion just like Ward had saw him once, covered in blood and holding a carried wounded girl through a battle zone as if she were weightless. He gave one order. Set a course for intercept. The crew didn't ask him any questions. Ward wasn't sure how long he stayed afloat. Time was warped in space. The outfit saved his life, just barely. Limited oxygen. Recycling fluids. The cold disconnect of the machine around him was the only thing that helped with the pain. Hesselt have passed out. Should have died at least 10 times by now, but the anger kept him up. He didn't think about the war. Before they called him a terrorist, he pondered about what he witnessed. Kids dying in streets where there are no more med units. Refugees refused help from council ships. Beckhouse. They were statistically violent. Cities were completely destroyed. Andused again for mining colonies. They told Earth to forget. Ward didn't. He was curled up in a ball among Saturn's outer rings when the Dustwalker spotted him. He was still holding his blade out, cold but still breathing. It took 6 men to get him into their cargo bay. The second his helmet when it was opened. Steam hissed out like the final breath of a dragon. Garrick was standing over him. Get him medical help, he growled. Fix up the suit. I want him to breathe, one of the crew members said in a low voice. He doesn't look like a person anymore. Garrick's eyes stayed open. That's good, because we're not battling people anymore either. It had been 2 weeks. Ward took a long time to heal. His body was torn apart inside and stitched up with gene therapy. Andro grit, but his mind stayed sharp, very crisp. Hadn't spent any time. He made a chart of the council's weak points, outpost locations, and supplicant. He knew how they worked, what scared them, and he had a message. That petitions won't win this battle. They would win with bombs. So when Garrick gave him a plan to hit a council convoy with weaponry for the moons of Mune 3, Ward didn't think twice. He got dressed. The Titan was ready once more. But things were different today. The armor listened to him faster, not only to his movements, but also to how he felt. The outfit got hot when he got angry. It got dimmer when he calmed down. It was alive and tied up to him, and it wanted Ward just as much as he did. The ambush went down without a hitch. Though the Dustwalker unleashed a blast of solar flares to hide its approach, Ward took off from ship, sped at the convoy's lead carrier. Like a bullet, his sword went right through the engine core, lighting it right away. The other guards ran away. The Titan didn't. Height moved like judgment itself, cutting, stomping, and letting loose absolute pandemonium. Though the convoy blew up all over the moon's surface and the fire bounced off the Titan's blazing armor, he carved above it all another message in plasma. You wanted it to be quiet. You got a storm. Back on the Council's homeworld, terror spread like a disease. They believed Earth would tumble in 10 years. Now they were afraid it would go up in a year. And at the top of their charge, a ghost in black armor, the Titan from Earth, the one they tried to kill, the one they didn't pay attention to, the one they would never forget. They called him the Black Scar. It wasn't a moniker that others gave him, though. It was what the aliens said in secret across encrypted channels in dark council rooms and among the broken parts of their gone. Ward didn't only break their equipment wherever he hit them. He made a cut, a scar that didn't heal a memory. There were more than one convoy now. Ward has struck 11 different targets in the 2 months since the Varunate slaughter. Bases for munitions, communications, depots on other worlds. The Titan had turned into a myth. People said he couldn't, but killed. Some people said he was already dead and that what they were battling now was something different. Both of them were corrupt. Ward wasn't alive in the manner that most people thought he was. The body of a person inside the suit. It still hurt, bled, and needed sleep, medicine, and rest. But the machine didn't, and together they were more than each of them. The Dustwalker had turned into his mobile command ship, which had been updated for speed and stealth. Garrick was in charge of the operations. The team did anything Ward said because they saw something in him that hadn't been around in decades. A time when Earth didn't bow down. It was during things changed during the Takari raid. The Takari station was more than just a weapon reader. It was a camp for breeding. For decades, captives from Earth had been sold to it to work Andros. The Council dubbed it rehabilitation. Ward said it was awful. He didn't sneak in this time. He fell from the sky like fire and hit the front wall. The Titan destroyed the outer fortifications in 5 minutes. Gun towers melted down. Guard mechs tore with just their hands. Ward walked into the main square like he owned it. No one could stop him till he heard the voice. A scream that wasn't from a guard, but from a person. A kid. He turned around and saw them. 3 tiers of cages full with kids, starving, filthy, and with eyes wide open in fear, not of the aliens but of him. He understood then. To them, he appeared like a monster. The armor was covered with blood and oil, burning a pale red from the fire of his rage. The Exablade was still shaking from its last death. These kids didn't perceive a hero. They saw a thing that made nightmares afraid. Ward stopped. He didn't let go of his gun, didn't say anything. He just turned around, burned through the lock with a laser pulse, and pulled the door of the cage open. They climbed out one by one, flinching when he moved, until one boy got closer. The tiniest of them, maybe 6 years old, with a lot of bruises on him. When he talked, his voice shook. You from Earth." Ward knelt down, and his armor groaned as it did, bolted. "I am Earth." The youngster nodded and then reached out and touched the armor. And that's when Ward realized this wasn't not simply revenge anymore. It was duty. He wasn't merely a weapon. He was a sign. The transmission was not planned. One of the pieces of writing on Dustwalker Atrin, a former communications officer, had been capturing helmet cam footage for analysis, but she neglected to turn off their all-time relay. So, the whole freeing of Takari was put online accidentally to an open network. It had been duplicated to 5 different places in 3 hours. Systems. It was on every black market channel in the Outer Rim within 6. By the end of the day, half of the council colonies had seen it. People were no longer terrified. They were mad, and they were putting things in order. There was actual pushback for the first time in decades. They called themselves the Scorched, a name that came from the manner Earth had been left behind and how they would now burn their way back to justice. War didn't beg others to follow them, but they still arrived. Drop pilots, smugglers, and soldiers, and even alien species that the council had mistreated started to reach out softly and carefully, but they did come. The council's untruth followed the Titan wherever it went. Broken. On the council homeworld of Varel, panic had turned into desperation. High Senator Tellum hissed, "They're spreading," and his scales twitched with stress. "The humans have infected. 6, they are getting together in secret. The Titan is starting a battle, and we helped," Commander Yao said under his breath. He was the only one who would admit the truth. "We didn't kill him when we had the chance. Now he's turning into an idea." Then, ideas had to bleed. Another one growled. They voted without saying a word. The motion had passed before the end of the hour. Operation Ashfire. Every suspected rebel human outpost had to be wiped down. Every colony suspected, or if necessary, entire sectors will be sacrificed to get rid of anyone who helped the rebellion. The message was what mattered, not the collateral. Ward found out too late. Dustwalker had stopped council movements along the Olan Corridor, which is a well-known way to get to 3 resistance run colonies. "There are too many ships and too much noise." Garrick verified it. "They're sending a fleet to murder everyone. Full spectrum elimination." There were no survivors. Ward didn't think twice. He set a course for Relux 3, the fastest path, and we intercepted before they get to the colonies. "Even if you have Titan's armor, you won't be able to survive a direct attack from a fleet," Ward said. Then I won't attack the fleet. I'll break their chain of command. He pointed to a flashing spot on the map. The dreadnought Valor is the ship that controls the fleet. Cut off the head and let the body rot. The attack wasn't clean. Ward started straight from orbit, skipping over 3 tiers of fleet formation and using every piece of stealth technology Earth had taken. The Valhalla was a floating fortress that was 5 miles wide and full of cannons. But you can only use guns if you can pull the trigger. Ward slammed right into the bridge. They never had the chance. He didn't battle his way in. He tore through guards and walls to get in. Through every wall the council thought would keep them safe. And when he was in the middle of their ship, he spoke for the first time in weeks, with officers in gold robes and silk uniforms all around him. You could have left us alone. He raised the Exablade. You could have let us rebuild. The first swipe killed 3 senators, but you wanted peace. The second one tore through the control node. You forgot what happens when Earth gets mad. And the third one was just for him. The Valhalla was left drifting, without air, and broken. The remainder of the fleet ran away. They didn't wait for orders or hunt for revenge. They just bolted. And across resistance commanders around the galaxy saw it happen in real time. It was true. The Titan from Earth had gone straight into the lion's den and come out dripping in blood. Denon came out covered in blood. And the burned ones, they doubled the council's homeworld. Varel was rising, and they were running out of places to hide overnight. Had never fought a war in its 1,000 years of rule. It didn't need to. Every other world bowed down to it. Every insurrection was put down in space. Every dissenter was destroyed before a blaster ever required to be drawn. Varel governed from behind curtains. Velvet gold trim. Not touchable. Until now. Until Earth. Until Ward. The Titanwise. And just hammering on the door anymore. He was ripping it off the hinges. The fleet was all over the place. The Valhalla was gone, and there was a political vacuum. The other council members panicked when they saw the emergency bulletins dot over Varel's orbit. Automated drones started moving defensive platforms that hadn't been used in more than 5. It was too late for military plans and diplomacy, though, because something much worse had come. The truth was that the burn had grown beyond Devon Ward's own command. Cell groupings had grown in locations he had never been. Non-humans who used to be loyal to the council were leaving. Little things that make noise, but not too much, might cause cracks. Officers who were formerly loyal soldiers were shutting down their guns in battle, disregarding instructions, and letting people. It was no longer merely about revenge, and the story of the Titan. Was about proof. Proof that the council wasn't unbeatable, that the stories told Varel told lies, and Earth was a lost, hollowed-out shell of a planet that brought on a storm that couldn't be stopped. Ward sat in the quiet of the Dustwalker's cargo hold, with his armor turned off and steam slowly coming out of the back. He wasn't resting. He didn't sleep anymore. The machine wouldn't allow him. His dreams, what little was left of them, were fire and steel, screaming, explosions, and the expression on that child's face from Thakari Station when he proclaimed, "I am Earth." That moment was now a part of him. That child didn't see a soldier. He saw something bigger that scared Ward more than anything else. He wasn't supposed to start a revolution. He wasn't supposed to remember what they had done, but now they were following. They were getting things ready and waiting for him to do the next thing. To Varel, the Garrick stood next to him with his arms crossed. The old soldier was his temples had turned gray, and his physique had become lean from months of hiding and fighting. He said, "We hit the home world, and we lose the last of the diplomacy. You know that this will lead to full extinction-level reprisal, right?" Ward glanced at him. "I'm not here for diplomacy," Garrick said. "I thought you'd say that, so I threw him a tiny device." Ward inquired, "What is this?" It was coordinates for an underground train line near Varel's old sector. It's the council's vault. All their documents, lies, and cover-ups are hidden in there. You let those files out into the network. We don't simply win, we end them. Ward looked at the chip for a long time. Then we end them. The approach wasn't tidy. Varel's skies were full of orbital cannons, each one 10 times bigger than the cannons on Valhalla. As soon as Dustwalker broke, they fired into low orbit. 3 plasma shots shot through the left thruster. One of the crew members was turned to vapor right away. Garrick swore. "Brace for manual override." Ward didn't wait. He slammed the airlock open and jumped out of the spacecraft. No, there was no stealth or invisibility, only the Titan. He fell through Varel's atmosphere like a comet with fire behind him. The collision broke the dome of a tower on the outer neighborhood, sending glass and steel crashing down on the fancy muff. People shouted and ran away. Drones were sent in. Ward kept going. He turned on the pulse gun and cleared the plaza in a matter of seconds. One of the council's urban mechs came up, 6-legged and equipped with eye on it, unleashed a salvo of cleavers and heavy suppressors right at him. Ward dove. He really cut through the outer shell with the sword and climbed inside. Mid-fire in the cockpit and ripped the pilot in half before turning the mech's own weaponry on its teammates. Varelson, less than 9 minutes. The defense line fell apart. He found the vault deep beneath the old Senate spire. Where it was buried behind it was true, just like Garrick stated, with deceptive architecture and hidden fields. A mile-long stretch of crystalline servers structured deep into the planet's bedrock. Ward looked at it. There was so much information and so many secrets. Every genocide, every slave labor colony, every human accident cleanly erased from the history logs. Every falsehood, the council proof. He put it into the burned relay system using Aether files started to flood. Earth would see. The colonists had a portable spike drive. The cosmos would know. No more concealing. No more pretending. Though the council was revealed, but it wasn't finished yet. Not yet. Because when Ward came out, something hit him in the vault. Not a weapon, but a voice. Software was cold. It responded, "You think this ends with truth?" A person came out of the darkness, high archon, tall and lean, dressed in silver. Vel, the executioner for the council. "You think data alters the universe?" He growled. "Number power transforms it." Vel, his armor stopped up and Ward's system shrieked when he raised his arm. The Titan's exoprogram shook fiercely. EMP spikes, multi-frequency drifters built into Vel's bedrock. Only someone on the council would have known how to set them off. Ward went down on one knee. The armor shook, glitched, and flickered. "You're nothing," Vel said with a snarl. "A corpse in a machine, a fit." He came closer. "I liked how scared you made him. It was funny, but now you die." Ward looked at him with flaming eyes through the helmet. "No." He made one hand move, then the other. The armor glitched again, and then roared. Vel blinked. Not conceivable. Ward rose 1 inch, then another. The EMP, the field wasn't failing. The armor was changing, adapting, and growing. Ward's voice that came through the speaker was low and shaky with strength. "You forgot one what? We're human," he lunged. Vel never yelled. The blade went through him too quickly. The skies over Varel started to shift. The resistance had come. Ships with the old flag of Earth, freighters with cannons made of scrap metal and fighters made of junkyard parts. They didn't have a fleet code or permission to be there, but they went nonetheless because they spotted beacon. They witnessed the Titan walk, and now they were ready to do what Viral had never seen: conflict in the sky above it. Its clouds were fake. For hundreds of years it was a safe place for the rich and powerful, few who never had to pay for their position. They governed in peace, while the rest of the galaxy was on fire. That changed in less than 30 minutes. The burned fleet came in rough lines. There was nothing military or graceful about them. Stolen freighters, cargo haulers that had been modified, and personal spacecraft with cannons fastened to them. They were ugly, loud, and desperate. But they didn't need beauty. They had fire. The orbital defenses of Varel opened up, firing volleys of ion blasts and fragmentation torpedoes. But the Charred had numbers. And more, they had one thing that the Council didn't: a motive to fight. Ward stood at the top of the Council spire, armor spewing smoke, and a blade dripping with blood. The blood of a high arc. Below him, blasts tore through. The horizon was full with smoke and fire. The suit's AI was inside the helmet, kept sending updates. Incoming signal. Dustwalker. Scorched units have broke atmosphere. Ground forces deployed. Reinforcements arriving. From Kelness Moonbase, ATA 6 minutes. Ward did an answer. He didn't have to. He already knew what he had to do. It wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a reckoning. Garrick's voice came through the COMMs. "Ward, do you hear this? They're dropping orbital glasses on the lower levels. The Council wants to murder you by killing their own people." Ward didn't flinch. Let them try. He jumped 30 floors down, over glass, metal, and fire. The Titan hit the square below with a bang, sending a shockwave out. Guards rushed to help. No matter how loyal they were still there, armed with plasma weapons, seeker drones, and even a large mech. Ward charged through them like a wrecking ball, painting the unit with gold accents. The first guard blew up from the force of his fist. The second guard melted from a pulse blast to the chest. The mech then opened fire. Ward caught 2 on his shoulder and sent the third one back with a flip of his arm, as a lot of heat-seeking missiles hit him. His blade, blowing it up against the mech's face. The remainder raced away and broke. People who hadn't run away observed from their windows with startled eyes. This wasn't a terrorist. This was justice in action. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the ground of Virel trembled. For years, the burned began to land. They used anything that could fly, like old transports, mining equipment that had been changed, and jumps. Stolen fusion cells. Garrick was in charge of the first wave, and his rifle, his hands were shaking, but his voice was firm over the radio. "We broke through the Citadel gates and planted their charges, and blow their heritage to hell." They moved across the city like fire, using the Chaos Ward made as cover for the outer rings. There was a lot of resistance. Council murder teams patrolled the inner wards, using civilians as shields. But the burned had nothing to lose. They battled like ghosts, and they began to win. The final council member sat frightened in the heart of the fortress. They had sealed themselves in the core chamber, where a backup AI kept control of the planet. It ran everything, from orbiting systems to defense towers, and now it was failing. The data ward upload had broken the vault and the system was crashing. Senator Drell, a leathery skiff with glowing skin, smashed her fists and on the console. "We have to leave right away." There's no place to, another snarled. Every fleet is compromised. He's turned them all against us. Then the door shook, not from bombs, from footsteps. Heavy, measured boom boom boom. Seal, someone yelled. Too late. The metal shattered inward, and Ward stepped through, lighted by the glow of blazing systems and the pallid fear of the heat. He didn't say anything. He only raised his cannon and pointed it at the galaxy's most powerful cowards. The last council room became a grave. Outside, Garrick and the Burnty witnessed the explosion from a distance. It was bright and sudden. The council was dead, not just in a symbolic way. Garrick put down his rifle, slowly letting out air. It was over, or so he thought. That's when the sky broke, not from ships, but from the Earth itself. Veryl's deep core reactor has been hidden for hundreds of years under the council chambers. A last-ditch failsafe. If the Earth ever fell, they'd take it with them. Ward didn't know, but the AIT Titan suit yelled a warning. Planetary core breach detected. Time to critical failure. 10 minutes. Ward swayed, and flames licked his armor. This wasn't winning. It was destruction. They would rather destroy the whole world than let him live. Let him live. He turned on every channel he could. Get all the burned units out of here. Get to orbit now. Garrick's voice trembled again. Ward, there aren't enough ships. Do it. What about you? Be quiet then. I started this. I'll complete it. The burn started to pull out, struggling through the turmoil to get to any ships that were still able to move. Garrick wouldn't leave until the final freighter took off. There were dozens of people stayed with him, mechanics, runners, and rebels who had lost everything. Ward reached the center of the world, because they now had something to die for. The vault was falling apart with only 6 minutes left. The radiation levels were over the charts. The heat alone would melt steel. The floor under his boots shattered with he reached the failsafe, a control node, a mechanism to vent the core at every step, into the upper atmosphere instead of letting it fully explode, but it was locked. Only AHL looked down. Bell's blood was still on the council's signature, which could unlock it. His sword. He reached inside the armor's stowage and drew out the hand that had been cut off, put it on the node. The core hissed, vented, and stabilized. The globe wouldn't explode, but the citadel would burn just enough. Eternity. Ward fell down as the chamber fell in. The Titan armor sealed around him, locking him in a shell of molten metal and quiet. No, there is no way out, but there is also no giving up. He had done what he came to do, make them remember. 30 hours later, the Scorched sent out their first official message from a salvage station in the Garrick appeared in front of the camera in the asteroid belt. This galaxy was tyrants, he continued, but we got it back. Not with peace, not with promises, but he held up the old Earth flag, which was ripped, charred, and still fluttering. And we did it because one man reminded us what it meant to be free. After a pause, we don't know if Hess survived. He might still be out there, or he might be gone. Either way, his warriors, they named the broadcast the day Varel fell. From that day on, the stars would say a new name, not of gods or emperors, but of one man, one weapon, one giant from Earth. They looked over the remains for 6 days. No, there was no movement, no communication, and no trace of life. The Citadel crater was almost 2 kilometers wide, burned into the bones of Virel's surface. The towers that used to be proud, the council's buildings, were turned into dark stone and twisted steel. Fires were still burning in the lower. The air was thick with radiation in the rooms, and Garrick stood at the edge, armor scraped and charred, with a breathing mask fastened on his jaw. He didn't talk to anyone for a long time, not his crew, not the scouts, not even himself. He was listening, hoping, and praying for the impossible. But the pit stayed quiet. Ward was gone. The burned ones honored him the only way they knew how. No statues, melodies, or carved granite with gold on it. Letters, just a flame. One eternal burn sparked by the fusion center of the old Earth shelter, where the core of a downed Titan mech was mounted. Crixus 4. The plaque under it said, "He walked so we could rise." Nothing more, nothing less. And little by little, the cosmos started to alter. The council was gone. Its fleets were scattered, and its leaders were dead. Systems were thrown into disorder. What came next wasn't peace. It was a power vacuum. Overnight, factions grew. Warlords, pirates, and mercenary groups used Thecalaps as a reason to make new thrones. Whole colonies that used to be loyal to the council went crazy. Old grudges came back to life. Blood debts that had been buried for a long time came back. Calling. And in the thick of it all, people that burned weren't an army. They were no longer a group of people. They were a nation. And Earth, which had lost its dignity, now held as in the galaxy's future. But Ward never wanted to be a leader. Others stepped up when he left. Garrick was in charge of the temporary network. Set up peace talks between the human enclaves and alien groups that were on their side. He made commercial deals with colonies that had broken away. He even helped build the New Earth Accord, which was a group of former rebels and colonists who promised never to let another empire grow. But even as the politicians, the streets still echoed one question. Even though things had changed, was Ward really dead? 3 months later, The rumors started when a mech was seen on Delcar's moon. One armored person trudging across the burned plains of Veos Prime, leaving Bend a graveyard of mercenary ships. A hacked.com broadcast full of static. But there was a voice, low and guttural, buried behind the noise. I recall. There was no proof, no video, and no confirmation. But Garrick knew better. He sat alone in the strategy room of the Dustwalker, looking at a blurry still image taken from a relay on a faraway asteroid. A large, sweeping shadow with one red eye gleaming faintly through the shadows of a destroyed mining field. The outline, the silence, the gate, and the match were all the same. That was Ward's autograph, Garrick said under his breath. He's still out there, still battling. But if Ward was alive, he wasn't coming back. He hadn't sent a Ward, hadn't sent a message, called the Scorched, or called Garrick once. Garrick knew why. Ward never fought for the politics, not for the council, the territory, or the new treaties. He battled for the dead in the stillness. And when the council burned, his war was over. But not his guilt. Somewhere in the brink of nothingness, within a Ward sat, alone in a derelict freighter buried by asteroid ice. The Titan suit had become one with him. Some parts of it were now permanent. No more cockpit exits, no more helmet seal. The machine pulsed with its own rhythm, own weird energy, a mix of alien and human, fed on adrenaline, and he could walk and fight, but he couldn't stop because the faces, the kids from Takari, the citizens who died on Varel, and their bells, who stayed in the burning city so that the people who had been burned may get out. They all had names, and he remembered them all. His war wasn't over yet. A pirate group who worked for Mr. 12 vanished overnight. No survivors, just distress calls and one phrase scratched into the hangar wall. Black steel. That's enough. A tyrant who made slaves of survivors who was discovered crucified in his own dropship. Though the hull was covered in deep mechanical claw scratches, and every time a corrupt general, the trend repeated when a kingpin of smuggling or a gang of slave traders disappeared. No messages, no demands, just silence and a myth. The Titan is walking again. Crixus 4. Garrick stood beside the eternal flame and watched it flicker against. The boy from Takari was there, too. He was older now and had cleaned up. A burned badge on his chest and a weapon over his shoulder. He looked at Garrick and asked, "Do you think he'll ever come back?" Garrick didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said he never left. That year, the new Earth Accord ratified its last charter. No species would be dominated by someone else. No world would be taken away and forgotten. And no one would be able to forget the man who made it all possible. The man who didn't want power, the man who didn't want fame, just the right to bear. Remembered, in the quiet recesses of space where the council buried and burned, people still tell myths about a creature that was born in armor and fire who flipped the galaxy upside down. Some people claim he's revenge. Some others claim he's already dead and that everything else is merely a ghost story. But if you ask any burned veteran what they think, they'll all tell the same thing. The Titan is still walking. It began with a whisper, a signal that couldn't be traced, and a flicker in the deep cacophony of galactic an archaic language that contemporary decoders can't read anymore. But some remembering Earth's previous resistance code, which was 37.9 megahertz, the one Ward used before the war. It sent out a signal every 6 hours, from a field of drifting asteroids in Sector 19. Garrick heard it first. He was aboard the Dustwalker, which is now a command center for the Scorched Fleet. The message played gently over and over, like a lullaby. He listened to it 20 times before contacting. It wasn't a call for aid. It was a goodbye. The asteroid was just another dead rock floating around in space. There was no gravity, no atmosphere, and no heat signature. But they found it buried beneath the ice. Half of the cockpit melted to the rock. Its surface burned black, and one red lens. It blinked weakly in the dark like a heart that was about to stop. They opened it with a plasma torch. Inside, they found the man. What was left of him. Ward. His body hadn't rotted. It had changed. Now Titan metal ran through his veins, bone reinforced with alien composite skin that pulsed with dormant power. He wasn't breathing, but he wasn't dead. He was frozen, hanging there, waiting. Garrick stood over him in quiet, with the youngster from Takari and the new burned envoy on either side. The boy had grown. He became a man, thin, sharpened, and a soldier in every way. He knelt by the open heat, was in the cockpit, staring at the empty mask that had haunted his dreams. He claimed he knew. Garrick didn't say anything. He knew he wasn't coming back, but there was still stillness. He didn't simply oppose the council. He made sure they never came back. Finally Garrick spoke, "And now it's our time." They didn't bring Ward's body back. He left it in the rock just like he wanted to. But they constructed something around it. The memorial wasn't open to the public and wasn't on any maps. But those who fought and those who bled and those who lived knew where to find it. It was deep in the asteroid, in the countryside, away from the civilized roads. There was a chamber made of ice and steel. The Titan was trapped within and resting. His armor wrapped around him like a sarcophagus made of flames, and he was always still. There was only one message carved on the entrance of the chamber. He took the first step. The rest is ours. Years went by, then decades. The galaxy, not completely, not peacefully, but differently. The new Earth Accord spread throughout 9 systems. Former Council species were welcome, however not everyone agreed. Empires had severe wounds. But one thing was still true: no one ever tried to conquer the galaxy again. The Titan was looking from some place in the dark. Space between stars. They claim he moves sometimes, not far, only a twitch of the fingers. The visor blinked red light. Once a quiet hum, like the reactor core of his armor, had come back to life for wait a second. No one has proven it yet. No one has tried because the burnt created. One thing is clear. He earned his rest. 100 years after Viral fell, Ione, the edge of the Taurus expanse, a new conflict started. A warlord named Crux started it. Enslaved colonies again, creating fleets, and broadcasting old council slogans. The Scorched said, not with forces and a crate that went straight to Crux's command ship. There was a piece of exoblade metal within that was still warm and red. Crow never attacked another system. Even now, after all this time, the Titan was remained the galaxy's last menace. No despot wanted to cross the line. Cross, the youngster from Takari, was the first president of the Free Citizens Alliance. His jacket sleeve always had the old Earth emblem on it. He never let people. He went to the memorial alone every year to remember where he came from. When asked why, he just said, I owe him my life. The galaxy owes him everything else. And what about Ward? Some people claim the armor is still alive and collecting energy from its surroundings. Waiting for anything to happen. Some people claim his mind is gone, stuck in a loop of old war collections. Some people think something else though, that Ward never really died, that the man in the armor changed into something more, a symbol, a force, a live echo, a giant. But one thing is clear: he didn't do it. He didn't do it for retribution, or even for Earth. He did it for glory. He did it because no one else would. He did it because someone had to go first. Someone had to go into the fire first.